Hey guys, thank you so much for picking up the elf on the shelf. She is so cute. Or, of course, you could make it a he. Gather up all the supplies that were in your paint kit, put on some comfy clothes, cover your paint surface. Take some deep breaths, fill up a water cup for your paintbrush, and then of course grab yourself some beverages, snacks, and turn on the Christmas jams because we're gonna have a great time. I've got all my paintbrushes and my napkins, and I have all my paint on my plate, but you can leave the paint in the tins unless you're going to be mixing a color. If you're going to mix a color, then you can put the paint on the plate to do all the mixing. All right, so we are going to start with our biggest brush that has the pointy corners, okay? This one right here. And I'm going to do a gray background, but of course you can do whatever color you want. Just because I do a certain color on something does not mean that you have to, and you can totally go rogue at any point. So I'm going to start with a glob of white. So if you want to get out a glob of white and put it on your plate, you want to make sure you grab enough to cover the whole background, okay? And so there's a decent amount of background. Then I always start out with just the tiniest amount of black because it's not going to take much. So you can leave all the white in your brush and mix in some black. After we do our background, I will show you how to clean out your brush properly and dry your brush. It's a little different than, like, say, using watercolors, okay? So I'm going to start with a very soft gray, and we're going to get this background all filled in. Now, the reason why I started brushing in these big areas first is so I can get the majority of the paint out of my brush. Now, I'm not sure that you're going to be able to see that real well, so I'm going to go ahead and darken this up just a little bit so that way you can see what I'm doing better and get all that extra out. Now, when I am close to my main ideas in the painting, I need to slow it down, okay? Because I don't want to get the paint where it's not supposed to be. So I go a little slower, just like this, and get that all painted around just like that. Now, if I turn my brush where the bristles are vertical, it's going to make a thinner line. Also, I like to hold my brush right where the metal and the handle touch whenever I'm doing something that I need a little bit more control. Now, when I'm just kind of swirling my brush, I'm not so worried about holding it that close to the metal. Now, don't hold it too close to the bristles, though, or you'll wind up with paint all over your fingers. Okay, so we're going to get this all filled in, and then I'm just kind of going just kind of flicking that wrist, okay? So that way I can have kind of feathered ends, and you can't really quite tell where the brush started and where it ended, okay? Where your brush started and ended, just like that. Now, I'm all about painting my edges. So that means I'm going to bring the color all the way up here to the top. And then, of course, I'm going to go down this side. I'll go down the other side, and then at some point we got to remember to flip our brush upside down. Now, as you're painting, if you see any little bitty white spots showing, that means you need more paint on your brush. So don't be too shy with the paint, but also don't use so much that it's globby. We don't want globs because they take a long time to dry. If at any time you feel a little stressed, I really suggest that you hop up, take a little stroll, stretch your legs, maybe get a little snacky snack or drink, and then come back to it. So sometimes it helps just to walk away from your painting for a minute. Kind of gets burned into our vision when we're just staring at it so much, right? So there we go. We'll get that all painted in. And remember, when we get close to these objects, we want to slow it down a little. And if you don't trust, like right now, I'm just using the corner. I'm not even using the whole bristle. I'm just using the corner of the brush. If you don't trust yourself with this bigger brush, definitely switch to the smaller brushes, which would actually probably be a great idea when you're trying to squeeze into tighter areas. That way there's no oopsies, right? So I'm going to get in here, kind of go around, go down, go around, just like that. Okay, now I lost my train of thought. Sometimes I just get in my art zone and I forget what I'm even thinking or saying. But anyway, so I am going to work on getting this whole background filled in. Remember, when we're close to things, we want to slow down. Now, that's what I was going to say. If we accidentally get paint in an area it's not supposed to be, you have two choices. Choice number one, let it dry, and then we just paint over it. No big deal. Or choice number two could be that you wrap your napkin up around your finger, okay? Dip it in your water, and then you can wipe that oopsie clean. So you can just wipe it right off, okay? We're going to go down and around and over, just like that, and get this all filled in. Okay, now I have a whole process to painting, okay? So at first it's going to look kind of blah, 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 but then as we go and we add some highlights and some shadows and some layers, it's going to look way more interesting, right? Okay, so definitely just kind of go with the flow, trust my process, and take deep breaths and have fun. That's the main goal, is just to really enjoy ourselves, right? Now, if you want to get a little fancy, you could add just a little bit more black to your gray so that we darken it up a little bit, not a lot. Remember, black goes a long way when you're mixing. It can darken up real quick, so you got to be careful. I'm going to get all that extra out of my brush. Can scrape it on the side, whatever you got to do. Stick that in my water cup and let it hang out. And now I'm going to grab the smaller brush that has the little corners. And then I can just sort of start at my tree and just kind of flick up like this. And what this does, I'm just flicking up, flicking up, flicking up, flicking up, flicking up, flicking up. So it's like up and away from the canvas. And what this does is it creates like a little bit of a shadow, a little bit of a look of a shadow behind our tree, which definitely gives it just a little bit more interest, right? So then, same thing, we can just kind of go around our girl, kind of get in here a little, give her a bit of a shadow, go under the arm, go under this arm, kind of go in here, 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 up above the books for sure, just like that. All right. Then we'll go up and a little bit up around the ball. There we go. Okay, so now, there we go. There we go. There we go. And awesome. So it gives it just a little bit of extra something, right? Excuse me. You could even do a little bit down here. So it's the same thing. Start at an object and then pull your brush down. Okay? Only if you want to. Totally up to you. If you want to kind of do the shadow thing. If you liked what was going on with your background and you don't want to, then don't. If you were doing your shadow and it was too dark, then you just let it dry a little bit and then you go back over it with a little bit lighter version or even the same version as your original background. Okay? And then that's how you can fix that problem if you got it too dark in spots. So there is my background. Okay, so now why don't we work on her face before we get too much going on, okay? And the reason being is because I don't want to accidentally pull a dark color into her skin. So I'm going to grab a little bit of white, not much, because she doesn't have a whole lot of skin showing, and a little bit of brown, like mini chocolate chip amount, okay? Mix those on your plate. Remember, it's okay to leave your paints in the tin until it's time to mix. I could even grab just a teeny bit of red in there, just a teeny bit, and that's going to put it more towards the peach side. Remember, it's always best to just do a little bit at a time. You can always add more. You cannot take it away if you add too much. Pretty much if you add too much, you just got to start over. Okay, I'm not even going to worry about trying not to paint on these Sharpie lines because you guys all have a permanent marker that came in your kit, so you'll be able to just paint, or excuse me, draw right over those Sharpie lines again, bring them back out so that they stand out and look really nice again. Okay, so don't worry about it. See, I'm just painting right over all of those Sharpie lines because I can still see them, and then I'll go back and redraw them after the Sharpie or after the paint dries. You cannot paint and then do Sharpie immediately after. The Sharpie has to be dry or it won't work. Now notice I did both hands, okay? And I also see something I forgot. Do you guys spy something I forgot? It's right here in the background. There. Silly me. Okay. There we go. There we go. Okay. Back in the water cup. This guy, back in the water cup. I suppose we should talk about these brushes. Never leave them out sitting with paint in them. It will dry up, okay? And then it'll ruin your brushes. Now, when it comes time to clean your brushes, you are going to put your brush all the way to the bottom and you're going to smush and swirl. I tell my little kids at school, just like a ballerina. Smush and swirl on the bottom of the cup. No tap dancing or you will splash your neighbor. All right, and then we're just going to rub the sides of the cup. A little bit more, then wipe, 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 and then the next step is really important. And I have people of all ages forget this next step. You're going to dry, 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 and get all that extra water out of your brush. If you don't, you'll dip it in your paint, water that down, and then when you set it on the canvas, the rest of the water will go rolling down the canvas. And then you'll just be really, really frustrated and upset with yourself, okay? Because you're going to say, Miss Kimberly told me not to do it, and I did it anyway. Okay, so I'm just rub, 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 rub. Wipe, wipe, and dry. Rub, 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 rub. Rub, 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 rub. Wipe, and dry. Okay. Now, we are going to use one of your smaller flat brushes. We could go with this one. Okay. Then we need some green, right? So I'm going to take some yellow, and we don't need a whole lot of green, but I do want to make sure I make enough. And then I always just start with a little bit of blue at a time, just a little bit, like mini chocolate chip amount. Okay, and when I mix that in, if I just have a tiny bit of blue, it's going to look more like a lime green, right? If I add a little bit more blue in there, it's going to go darker. And remember, when you're mixing paint, try to keep it in a small pile. If you spread that paint all over the place, it is going to dry out really fast. And also, I don't know why kids do this, but when they mix colors at my studio, they just mix the tiniest bit of paint, and then they always run out and they have to mix more and try to make it match. I know it's really hard to know how much paint to grab, but just make sure you're grabbing enough, okay? So we never want to paint with a globby brush, so I'm going to scrape the extra off. Okay, remember we hold it just like we hold a pencil, right where the metal and the handle touch. Sometimes you can use that pinky to kind of steady your hand. And I am going to start painting in my tree. Now, if you don't trust yourself with this smaller, flat cornered one, right, then grab a different smaller brush. you do you. You do what you're comfortable doing. And I'm not trying to make this look nice and smooth. I am just doop, 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 doop. You know, just real quick, 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 quick brush strokes, okay? Quick, 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 little short, quick, quick, quick brush strokes. So it creates this great texture on the canvas, okay? It almost looks like a tree, like a for real one, right? Okay, so rub, 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 rub. All right, now, there we go. There we go. Awesome. So let me show you up close. See all that great texture on there? Okay, now if it's not dark enough for you, you have two choices. You could put it on a little bit thicker. I wouldn't go much thicker, or let it dry, put a second coat on. No big deal. Now you can even go ahead and pull that brush. I'm going like pull it off the edge of the tree to give it this great kind of fluffy look, right? That's always an option too, instead of trying to stay perfectly in the lines. Sometimes it's really hard to stay in the lines, and sometimes it's more fun to get out of the lines, right? Why not? Okay, there we go. So now, there we go. So now we are going to, there we go. There's just a teensy, teensy, teensy bit of green on here. So I'll just go ahead and fill that in, and fill this one in, and fill this one in, and here, just like that, okay? So I'm going to clean this brush off, and I know it sounds really kind of silly, but I am going to go ahead and paint all the white spots white. So I'm going to use, I guess it has the longest bristles of a kind of pointy brush, kind of flat end brush. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint in the white, okay? Try to stay off the background just in case it's still a little bit wet. And the reason being is because the paint has just the teeniest bit of a semi-gloss to it. So if you are looking at your painting in the light and you notice that the white spots don't have just the teeniest bit of shine, it's going to look very obvious that you didn't paint those areas. Now in a not well lit room, nobody will ever know the difference, but we might as well. Plus it's good practice, right? Since it doesn't matter if it gets somewhere it doesn't belong, since it's just white paint. Okay, so that's all filled in. Those are our white spots, the white on the hat, the white on the collar, the white on the skirt. If yours is a boy elf, then it's just a whole red outfit, right? But it does still have a white collar, I suppose. Okay, so that's going to go in there, and I'm going to get back out that smaller flat brush. And what if we do our shelf? So you could do a wooden shelf and do brown. That would be really pretty. Or if you want to, make colors, what if we mix like some turquoise and blue and just kind of make this great dark turquoise color? There we go. And we'll just scrape that extra off. And we'll get this all filled in. And remember, we outline, and then as you outline, it kind of just fills in anyway, right? There we go. There we go. There we go. And if you don't trust yourself to squeeze in these spots, switch to a smaller brush in the tight squeezing in areas, and then a bigger brush in the bigger areas. Okay, there's nothing wrong with kind of using two brushes in one section, because you definitely just want to enjoy yourself and not stress yourself out. So if that means switching brushes, then so be it. Also, if you have a very soft touch, sometimes that's going to help you keep paint where it's supposed to be too. If you have a really soft touch, okay? So there's that. Now, again, if it's not dark enough, you can let it dry and then add another layer, or you can try to add a second layer of wet paint on top of wet paint. If you do, what I suggest doing is using the side of the bristles instead of the tip of the bristles. So I can lay wet paint on top of wet paint just like this. There we go. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so that's one way that I can put wet paint on top of wet paint. Okay, so we're going to clean this little guy off now. And what if we go ahead and do her outfit? And I'm thinking I'm going to use one of the smaller pointy brushes, okay, whichever one you're comfortable using. And we can use the red straight like it is. It's pretty bright, straight like it is. And it's a smidge bit see-through. Outline, remember? Outline, outline, outline. And then we can fill it in. Oop. Got a little bit on her white fluffy stuff, but you know what? We're just going to let it dry and paint over it because I'm afraid I'll smear it if I try to get it right now. Okay, and then her little shoulder and arm. There we go. And remember, at the very end, when this is completely dry, you can retrace all these Sharpie lines, and it just looks like, it's crazy what that does for it. Retracing all the Sharpie lines just brings it all together and looks so nice. Okay, there we go. There we go. Awesome. And down here and across the belly, and then fill that in. Long brush stroke, long brush stroke, long brush stroke, long brush stroke, just like that. Okay, then we're going to paint in the legs. Paint in the legs. There we go. There we go. We'll get it all filled in. I am going to guess that you guys are doing incredible. So I think you should take a step back for a moment and just admire your art and tell yourself you're doing fabulous. And then you can carry back on. Here we go. And make sure and tell your neighbor, if somebody's painting this with you, that they're doing fabulous as well. Because it's super awesome to be kind to one another, right? Okay. So, and then if you have other things that you want to be red while it's in your brush, you might as well go do that. So I've got the ornaments that are red. And then one of my books is red. So that's something to think about. There we go. So outline, outline, fill in. And then we'll do this book right here. So remember, outline, outline. Never put too much paint on your brush at once or you will get out of the outline. But you want to have enough paint on your brush so that you're not having to constantly dip in your paint. Okay? There we go. Kind of smooth that out. Perfect. Okay. So now we could do some yellow. Now the yellow on our plate's pretty bright, and there's nothing wrong with that. I could use that. Or I could add some white to it and soften it up some. So now we have a softer yellow. Or I can really blow your mind. Grab a little teeny bit of purple, teeny bit of purple, mix that in, and it's going to darken up our purple and help it go more towards like a mustardy yellow. Okay, so that's always an option too. I always start with just the smallest amount of purple at a time, and then I can add more if I want to. So this was yellow with white in it, and then a little bit of purple at a time until I liked it. Now, if this brush isn't pointy enough, you do have another brush in there that's even pointier to help you get your star filled in. And I got a little bit of green on my brush, so I got to scrape that off on my napkin. And we'll carry on. There we go. So if you get color on your brush that's not supposed to be on there, then we don't worry about it. Just wipe it off on your napkin. You don't even have to wash it in your cup. You can just wipe it off on your napkin and then carry on. And I just had a thought, the tree skirt is red also. But that's okay. We could always make it another color too. And then what if we did a book yellow just to create a little bit of balance from the left side to the right side? Also, if your water gets too mucky yucky, then just go clean out your water cup, okay? There we go. There we go. Go down the side, back up, over, 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 over. Okay, here we go. Awesome. Okay, and then we could fill in the book, or the ball, excuse me, as well. Or you could make it look like a basketball. That'd be cute. Or a baseball, or a soccer ball. You can most definitely add all your own special details, right? Okay, now what about her hair? I'm going to do brown hair. I'm just going to stick with the same brush, guys. I washed it out and I dried it really good. And we outline and outline, fill it in, fill it in. There we go. Ta-da! Just like that. Oh yeah. Super cute hair. Now, of course, your elf could have, you know, blonde hair, red hair, black hair, whatever you want it to have. I just did brown hair because my hair's brown. Okay, there we go. So we outline and outline just like that. Okay, and then her little eyes. Before I do her little eyes, there it is. Okay, now you have to make sure your skin is all the way dry before you do this. But remember, you can retrace your permanent marker lines so that they stand out better if you want to. Now, if you don't trust yourself to paint in her little bitty eyes, you could always use just color them in with a Sharpie, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so we got a little brush, and I might just use that same kind of turquoisey color that we made for the shelf and just make her eyes the same color. Nice. Okay, fill it in. Fill it in. Now, let's say you accidentally paint the dot in, right? Or you don't like the dot where it is. You paint over it. You flip your baby brush upside down. You dip in your white paint. And then you can put a little dot right there on the eye. And then if you want to put a second little dot, you can put a second little dot. Boop. Boop. And then we get another one. Boop. Just like that. And clean my brush. I'm going to do a little bitty touch up right there. Okay, where I had that oopsie earlier. And then I got to do this tree skirt, right? Because I forgot to paint it. So again, you can do that tree skirt whatever color you want. There's no wrong answer. But in the picture it's red, so I should probably do it red for you guys. Now, if you wanted to get fancy, you could do little dabs of white snow on the tree. You could do little shines on the ornaments. You can do little decorations on her skirt. So, like, I could flip my brush upside down, dip it in the red paint, and make a dot, and dip it in the red paint, straight down, straight up, straight down, straight up. Not too fast or your dot will drip or it will look like a Hershey kiss. And here we go. Let me show you the little highlight I was talking about. So like on the ornaments, I can go curve line, curve line, curve line, curve, 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 just like that. See that? Fabulous. And then I could do a little shine on the star. I could put a little shine on the book. If you wanted to, we could definitely put a shine on the ball. So you can kind of have fun with adding a few little extras on there if you want to. That's completely optional. But it just kind of does a little extra something to it, right? Just an idea. Same thing like on the shelf. There's not much shelf to do highlight, is there? Whoop. All right. So that, my friends, is my elf on the shelf. Now, of course, I would want to go back and re-Sharpie all of these lines and make them really pop and stand out. You should probably put your signature on here. I'm always scared to do it on the front, so I typically do it on the back. Your choice. Maybe even put the year if you want. Thank you guys so much for painting your elf on the shelf with me. I hope that you had a super great time. And of course, there are so many more art kits to choose from. So head over to that website. The link is down below and you can get you another art kit or get one for somebody that you love. And we have some that are also not just holiday. You guys have a very Merry Christmas and thank you so much for painting with me. I can't wait to do some more art with you.